The following live stream has been approved for appropriate audiences by the host. However, the topic may be a bit intense for younger or more sensitive audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good evening, happy Friday, and welcome to Last Call, where this week we will be having a bit more sober stream than usual. We'll be discussing a serious topic tonight that deserves a good deal of reverence and respect, and that topic ties directly to a surprise hit film of the summer. With a current domestic box office of $156 million and soon to be released internationally, Sound of Freedom is shining a light on a very dark reality, and I believe it is the most important film of the year, in many years in fact. So settle in and get comfortable. With no further preamble, we'll be jumping into the show right now. Yeah, looks like that worked. Okay, great. Well, I'm glad. Now I've learned something. I can start starting these streams out a little bit more smoothly from now on. At least that's my hope. That's what I learned exactly. So, how you doing tonight, Boomer?
I'm doing well. I have I have an unsweetened iced tea.
Yep. So, no alcohol tonight.
No Long Island iced tea.
Yeah, I literally just a bottle of water tonight. Maître, how you doing? What you sipping on?
I'm doing really good, and I am also drinking water. Just
water. There you go. Gosh, who's that skinny guy with a dark beard that you're with?
Yeah, if any of y'all missed it, they had their anniversary stream last night on Maître's channel.
Yep. And yeah, that picture, gosh, how long ago was that? That was
taken at Gabe's
last birthday party. That had to have been about 15 years ago? Maybe not that long ago.
No, not that long.
10?
Maybe about 7 or so. 8? No. Mischief has been dead 7 years. That's my cat. So yeah, maybe about 10, 11. Maybe it is, closer.
Yeah.
Closer to like a dozen.
Yeah. That's what happens in 10 years. Let me tell you. But anyway, yeah. Let's say hi to the chat. First up was Maître. He was an early bird today. He was about 45 minutes before the stream. So thanks so much for being here early, Maître. But followed up very, very shortly thereafter by our favorite Blue Wrench deleted scenes, dropping all the links. Thanks so much, buddy. Super appreciate you. Big Al Presents. Have a great stream, my friends. Indeed, a very important film and a very good film as well. Yeah, I do believe that Big Al has a review up on his channel, so definitely go and check that out. PJ, hey, good to see you, my friend. Glad you're here. Let's see here. Seems to be a little bit lighter night tonight, and I understand that.
That's because you're not drinking, so they can't make fun of you.
Yeah, I guess that's the draw is the drinks, right?
Yeah.
JPRPH1, hey folks, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for being here. And he's saying good evening to us. I know Nutter of Nutter's Network said hi to me, but I missed the thing. But I said I love you too, sweetie, somewhere in the stream. So there you go. And David Pensek, greetings, programs. Good to see you, my friend. Okay, that's where we are so far.
World Nation. Oh, you already mentioned them. Sorry.
I said hi to PJ. Yep. Good to see you. And I'll say hi to anyone else that happens to pop in here if and when they do. But let's go ahead and get into this. So, Sound of Freedom. I'm sure everyone has heard of the Yeah, I had no doubts, Matanui. Thanks so much. So I'm sure by now everyone's at least heard of the film. I know you saw this film, Boomer. I think you actually saw it before I did.
Yes, I did take a week off from work. I figured I'd get a vacation in while the getting was good, and a lot of us still doing house stuff. But I did manage to catch a couple two movies that week, and one was Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. The other was Sound of Freedom, and yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about this movie. I heard the story of the how the directors and the other filmmakers involved. This movie got shelved for 5 years by a certain company with a mouse sigil on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which
That's
I found very
right.
disturbing because I felt this was another tragedy of the 20th Century Fox merger. And I figured, I know these guys, I figured I'd show them my support. It sounded like an important subject matter. I'll also say one thing going into this too, when people were talking about this movie, the kind of hatred and vitriol this movie was getting, and I was trying to figure out why, because nothing about the subject matter. I mean, it's a hard subject matter to deal with, but people were almost saying coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, exactly right. Real quick, want to say hi to Connie Cleary, and you started robot out on me there for a second.
Oh, sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah, we'll definitely get into that as well. Regarding the mouse element there, I'm going to kind of chalk that up to Hanlon's razor. Don't attribute to malice what could be adequately explained by stupidity. There's been so much that they acquired in the Fox, acquisition that they've done nothing with at all. So, just the fact that they went and they, if I understand correctly, what happened was they sold the rights back to the production company. Is that what happened?
I'm sorry I missed that last bit. As you said, my internet was a little fuzzy.
That they sold it back then to Angel Studios.
I really want to find out the full story about this, but from what I heard, the filmmakers got the rights to their own movie back because, of course, they made a deal with 20th Century Fox, who I think had every intention of just giving this a normal release, but unfortunately, they got taken over by Disney, and a lot of projects that were in development got scrapped after the Disney merger, and I guess films that were supposed to get released got shelved, like this one. And I'm not sure why. I'm sure we'll get more details on that maybe when this comes out on DVD, and I'm very curious as to what that story's about. Fight to get this movie released.
And I'm going to say that that's why I'm so inclined to take the Hanlon's razor perspective on this, because I don't think they even knew what this film was. They didn't even look at it. And when they just sat on it, because they sat on everything that they got from 20th Century Fox, and looks like they haven't bothered to look at it, and they haven't bothered to do anything. And then Angel Studios comes along and says, look, there's this movie, we did it, we'd like to see it distributed, how about we just buy it back from you? And Disney's hurting so bad for money, they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. I didn't even know anything about this, sure, go.
And I'm not exactly sure why they shelved this. I don't know if it's because they didn't like the fact that Jim Caviezel was in it. I mean, he does do some Christian-based movies. I know he did. I think he did a Paul the Apostle of Christ.
What have they released that they got from 20th Century Fox? Seriously, what have they released?
It's funny you mentioned that because Death on the Nile, that was a 20th Century Fox release, and I think they finally released it, but that was another one that they kind of shelved or didn't distribute properly. That was another one in the Hercule Poirot series that started with the Murder on the Orient Express, the one that had Kenneth Branagh as a
they sat, like I said, they sat on everything, even the stuff that was
2 X-Men movies too that they had.
Very clearly part of their brand that they were trying to promote. They've done nothing with X-Men. They've done nothing with any of that stuff. not even putting stuff out on stream. So I don't think they were even aware of what Sound of Freedom was when they asked for it back, because if they really wanted to sit on it, they could have just said, no, we're going to keep it. But Sir Torin brings up Hollywood bags on and on about how bad human trafficking is, and suddenly a guy on the right makes any comments on it and they're against it. We'll talk more about that too, but it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Well, it's also weird though that we're at this
very
stage
hypocritical.
where seemingly there's a subject that anyone should be against. I mean, this is this, and the fact this movie's shedding light, this is actually happening. Everybody should be against this heinous act that's being committed nowadays. But I'm telling you. You had people coming out, the old right gets to pick and choose what it gets outraged about. And I'm saying, well, if they're outraged about the right thing, and you should also be outraged about this. On the same side for once. Yeah,
you pick and choose whether or not you're going to be outraged about it, depending on who's talking. And that's hypocritical.
I don't see this as a particularly political movie. I don't know where they were getting that from. I mean, this is
the fact that they're calling it political says more about them than it does about the film.
Are they afraid that if we start investigating this trafficking, we're going to be digging up some dirt on some power players out there? I don't know. I do know that the movie is interesting because it doesn't pull any punches about who's partially to blame. It does make a point that even the United States is partly responsible for this trade going on. It's not, and it's not just us also, but, there were people.
United States is number one in the world for sex trafficking. Yeah. More than 500,000 children a year go missing in the U.S. alone.
Yeah.
More than 50% of victims are between the ages of 12 and 15.
Yeah. So that's a pretty, nasty indictment of our own country. And to be fair, though, there are Americans shown in this movie trying to fight the fight against this. Just that there are people in South, the south of the border, South American countries also trying to fight against this horrible stuff going on, right?
Yep.
So it doesn't.
Deleted Scenes has a review out too, so make sure you check that out. In fact, speaking of reviews, I'm going to go ahead and drop a link to an article you sent me from Variety of all places. A little bit surprised by this. They even restricted revival houses from showing older films and films at cons. That's a whole different topic about how poorly managed their business is. We've kind of talked about it a little bit before. We'll definitely be talking about it again in the very near future. Sure. Probably on Geeky Geezers, but you're exactly right. Remember, these are the same people who shielded a man whose name starts with a W, and Einstein. Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly right.
How long were they partnered with him?
Yeah.
And are you telling me everybody in the organization didn't know what was going on? I'm just saying.
Everybody knew. Yeah. Everybody knew. They're suddenly, it reminds me of that bit from Casablanca. I'm shocked, I say, to find that there's gambling going on in this establishment. You're winning, sir. Oh, thank you very much. I mean,
that's funny.
That's the kind of thing that I mean.
That's like in Dick Tracy when they say, I wouldn't be caught dead in a place that allowed gambling, when one of the criminals says that to Dick Tracy.
Exactly. So let's take a look at this Variety article. In fact, I think if I am clever, I might be able to, I guess I got to share the screen. Hold on a second. See, I'm still learning. Present, share screen, entire screen. There's the screen. Don't share the audio. You already hear me. There we go. Sound of Freedom review. Jim Caviezel anchors a solidly made and disquieting thriller about child, trafficking, let's be honest. I do want to point out this is by someone named Owen Is that Gleiberman?
Oh, I don't see anything on the screen.
You don't.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was just streaming.
Netta, are you seeing it?
Seeing what?
Are you seeing my screen on the screen on YouTube?
I see your face. I see Boomer. I see me and you in my picture. That's it. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not live. I was on the StreamYard side. No, I'm seeing a black screen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's try that again. Stop sharing. Present. Share screen. Because in StreamYard, it looks just fine to me.
I thought I was the one who was
entire
supposed to have the
screen.
Boomer moments. I'm kidding.
It's not my fault. It's StreamYard.
I
Are you
know,
seeing
I
it now?
I see a little. No, that's weird. Nothing.
I'm waiting for my YouTube to catch up.
Yeah.
Hold on.
No, wait, there it is. I see it. I saw it. I just saw it. I
white
just saw it.
Thing.
It was full screen. There you are. Okay, you're good.
Okay. There we go. All right. So, Sound of Freedom. Jim Caviezel anchors a solidly made and disquieting thriller about, trafficking of friends of the playground. Sound of Freedom is being sold as a conservative thriller. It's based on the true story of Tim Ballard, the former Department of Homeland Security special agent who has devoted himself to fighting, that kind of trafficking, and who took his crusade private when he founded Operation Underground Railroad with backing from Glenn Beck. The movie stars Jim Caviezel, who is who in the 19 years since he played the title role in Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ has been a go-to actor for the kind of faith-based projects the vast majority of Hollywood stars steer clear of. Wearing a trim dark beard and coppery blonde hair, Caviezel plays Ballard as a beatific G.I. Joe meets George C. Scott in Hardcore meets an Avenging Jesus. That's an interesting take on it. The movie has a Christian undercurrent that occasionally becomes an overcurrent, as when Ballard explains why he's fixated on the crime of trafficking, because God's children are not for sale. Sound of Freedom has been heavily marketed on the right-wing media, like Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire, and one of the grand subtext of all of this is taking on the issue of the horrific criminals who kidnap and traffic children. The film could be seen as adjacent to the alt-right paranoia that was originally stoked by 4chan and QAnon, the wingnut conspiracy theory about a Washington, D.C. pizza parlor being a front for Friends of the Playground, extending into the larger conspiracy theory that says that the whole culture of liberalism is a racket to protect and cover up for a cabal of Friends of the Playground. All of that, let's be clear, is insane nonsense. Yet let's assume that, like me, you're not a right-wing fundamentalist conspiracy theorist looking for a dark, faith-based suspense film to see over a holiday weekend. The movie opened July 4th.
Right.
Even then, you needn't hold extreme beliefs to experience Sound of Freedom as a compelling movie that shines an authentic light on one of the crucial criminal horrors of our time, one that Hollywood has mostly shied away from. The film was completed in 2018 and then shelved by Disney after it acquired 20th Century Fox, the film's original studio. It was finally brought back and is now being distributed independently. That's another point that I'll want to get back to later, but this could have gone out under 20th Century Fox. It could have gone out under Disney, but it's being marketed independently.
Right.
And we'll talk more about Angel Studios later on. How many movies and TV shows have we all seen about drug trafficking? Too many. Child sex trafficking, by contrast, isn't a subject that lends itself to entertainment. But as Sound of Freedom informs us, it's the fastest growing international criminal network the world has ever seen. A closing title states accurately that there are more people enslaved now by sex trafficking than were when slavery was legal. And the nightmare lived by captured children is unspeakable, unimaginable, and all too real. Let's be clear. This matters more than the cocaine and opiate industry. One of the purposes of a movie like Sound of Freedom is to sound the alarm in the way that a dramatic feature film can do and that journalism often can't. It takes us into the forbidden zone. It taps our primal emotion of empathic terror. Yet Sound of Freedom isn't a work of art like Lucas Moodyson's Lila Forever from 2002. The one great movie that's been made about sex trafficking. No one saw it, but it's extraordinary. This is a genre thriller. That said, it's an urgent and honest one, and Caviezel gives the most committed performance since The Passion of the Christ. He's seasoned now with a smoldering aura of a more sensitive Clint Eastwood. He knows how to underplay the rage and despair and how to make the drama of going undercover into something life-size. In a sequence that's suck-in-your-breath devastating, Roberto Jose Zuniga, a single father in Honduras, agrees to let his 11-year-old daughter, Rocio, played by Crystal Aparicio, and her 7-year-old little brother try out for a music competition show that's being overseen by Katie Giselle. I'm not even going to make the plunge. Who is professionally poised and glamorous and therefore seemingly trustworthy. He's instructed to drop the kids off at an apartment where there are a dozen other child contestants inside, and to return a few hours later. When he does, the place is dark and abandoned. He's been fooled, and those kids are about to enter hell. Special Agent Ballard, meanwhile, is in the midst of entrapping his umpteenth internet consumer of bad child material.
Yes.
Ballard has been on the beat for 12 years and has captured some 280 friends of the playground. But what haunts him is just the awfulness of these crimes, the horrific videos he has to watch, and that he's catching culprits without rescuing the children. He wins the trust of his latest sicko by taking him out of his holding cell and implying that he himself is a secret friend of the playground. In this way, Ballard is able to discover a link in the trafficking chain, and he launches an operation to nab the traffickers. When he does, at the Mexican border, he saves the young boy from that opening scene. But what about the boy's sister? She's still trapped in the nightmare. And this eats away at Ballard. It becomes his mission, his obsession. He must save her. Ballard and his wife, Catherine, played by Mia Sorvino. Oh, I didn't realize that was Mia Sorvino.
Neither did I, but I learned later on. Yeah, she was in this movie.
Yeah. Have 6 kids. Rocio is in the film's Christian view becomes the extension of their family. All children are God's children and are therefore all of our children, or something. But this is faith-based piety laid out over a situation that didn't need it. Ballard has made a decision to go after the traffickers themselves, a nearly impossible task that's not backed by the Homeland Security apparatus. His boss gives him 1 week and 10 grand. But as he travels down to Colombia, the film comes alive as an undercover thriller. It helps that Ballard's central contact is Vampiro, an American who used to launder drug money for the cartel and is played by the great actor Bill Camp. as a skeevy expatriate who's like a character you can imagine Hemingway coming up with if he lived into the 1970s. Vampiro also spends time in prison, has been atoning for a life of sin, but he's still steeped in it. Camp makes him an, I don't know that word, ebullient sleaze, who's still connected to the worst people you can imagine. Ballard starts to work with him, and they come up with the idea of launching a fake members only club for wealthy friends of the playground as a way of entrapping the local traffickers, who include Katie Giselle, a former beauty queen. For a while, the movie becomes the grungiest Miami Vice episode you ever saw. Yeah, I hadn't really thought of it that way, but that's kind of true. But Ballard must ultimately travel downriver, a la Apocalypse Now, into the jungle. You know what? I'm actually not going to read too far into this because
you want to spoil, yeah.
Well, not only do I want to not spoil it, but that's there is, yeah. So I guess that's about it. So that's it in a nutshell. But one of the big, well, there's been a lot of attempts to slander this film, to downplay it, to find every negative that the opposition can find about it, and they'll say that it's not accurate, and so on and so forth. And that bit that I was getting into, I'd say the last quarter of the film that involves him going downriver, where I stopped reading, that actually didn't happen. That was fictional, and just it was one of those things they did for dramatization purposes, and it just kind of wasn't necessary. It's good from a action adventure story perspective, but up to that point, everything's pretty accurate. If anything, it was downplayed. That operation that was described there, it was actually far bigger than that. There were a lot more people captured than were said, that were actually shown on screen there. And there were multiple locations in other countries. And by the way, they are starting to talk sequel, so they may cover some of those other locations and what happened there. But yeah, that's the gist of the movie. And I want to back up because I don't want to have missed too much of the chat. Everyone's saying hi to each other. Share it out. They even, we saw that. These are the same people, right? Exactly. And
actually 2 lines, but they missed the other one. The comment about the millstone.
Right.
Your
That's
Bible,
true.
you know where that comes from. But yeah.
And look, I don't know, and I'm sorry, I didn't say hi to Lester San Jose earlier. But yes, you made it for the juicy portion. Yes, good point. But there is a religious element to this film. Right. But you also have to remember that Tim Ballard, the real person that this is about, is a very religious person.
Yes.
So if you're going to accurately tell the story of a religious person, then you're going to be portraying the things he says and the things he does and the way he thinks. And, that is part of telling the story. That's not infusing the story with, a religious overtone. That's telling the story of someone who happens to be a religious person. I mean, that
He
would
lives
be...
his life according to those precepts, but he's not proselytizing or anything in the movie, not that I can tell. I mean...
No, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I mean, he does quote like you said, a scripture, but a line from scripture. But it's one that's very, very applicable. And how many non-believers quote things from the Bible just because they are well-known truisms, right?
Devil.
That was a warning from Jesus, I believe. About don't you harm a child. That's yes.
Yeah, it would be better for that person that a millstone be tied around his neck and thrown into the ocean. Absolutely, yeah. And he points that out to the individual he has just set up.
Yeah, you know what's weird about that whole sequence in the beginning of the movie? You're looking at Jim Caviezel, this all-American, tough guy. I'm not going to say he's tough, but I don't know how this scene is going to play out. I don't know if he's going to go in there and start threatening the guy.
Yeah, exactly.
He takes a very different approach. He decides to say, I'm a big fan of the book you wrote, and he basically starts pretending he's like him.
Yeah,
and that
exactly.
They have similar interests, and that was an interesting approach. And Tim Ballard, that was probably a lot to stomach, but to pretend to be that way, but it was to help. For a greater cause. So he was basically being undercover as,
And there is a scene that, and we kind of covered it in that review, where he says to his wife, if I do this, I got to leave my job and everything. She says, well, then you need to leave your job. You need to do what you got to do. You need to go help that girl. And you got to go help those kids. And that was another thing that was very much downplayed, because in interviews, Tim Ballard has said that when he talked to his wife about that, and this is something you'll hear from many men who are spiritual, that have wives that are spiritual. Women, I believe, are put in marriages with spiritual men to help them. They are the heart of that relationship. Men tend to be, very scripturally minded. I understand scripture, the philosophy, the brainy stuff. The women are the heart. They say faith like a child. That's how I talk about Nanette. It's like, I don't understand, I don't know all the scriptures, but I got the faith on straight, And his wife says to him specifically, she says, you must do this thing. This is your calling. You will not risk my salvation by not accepting God's call. And that's not in the movie anywhere. But that is what he has said in interviews. So, I mean, it could have been way more spiritual if they'd been really accurate. So again, like I point out, they've downplayed these elements.
What sets them on this whole thing, though, is that they do recover the son. We see the brother and sister at the beginning of the movie, and of course their poor working class father. I forget which country it was. Help me out here. And anyway, it was South American country, and he. It all.
I want to say Ecuador.
It might have been. It all looked legit because, like I said, this woman running the thing was a former beauty pageant winner.
Right.
So.
Before
we say he got suckered, well, did he? Because if you see this famous celebrity come, you're not necessarily going to suspect that she's involved with something like this.
Honduras. Yes, thank you, Lester. Yeah.
But what's interesting is he does, by going undercover and doing what he did, what I was talking about earlier, they do recover the boy. And, of course, this is a big deal. But, of course, when he brings the boy to his father's overjoyed. But at the same time, where's his daughter, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And, of course, that's kind of sits with Tim Ballard, and he knows he has to go and find the daughter now, right?
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Did you talk about how when he quit his job, he was like 10 months away from being fully pensioned.
Yeah. He was less than a year from being fully vested in his retirement, so he gave up his retirement. He was also the only breadwinner in his family, and he had a fairly big family that he had to provide for. But as a spiritual woman says, God will provide a way, you know.
And he even said in his interview, he goes, I walked away from like millions, but that would have been my pension and all that.
Yeah.
But taking on this new job, this new role,
been far more rewarding.
I got far more monetary wise, but it was far more rewarding as well.
And that brings me to the other point. So this could have been distributed by Disney. It could have been distributed by 20th Century Fox. It's being distributed by the production company, Angel Studios. And they are really doing well right now. Since this film, I guess they've got a series out too. What was it called? A series that's really popular. Help me out here. The Chosen. I guess The Chosen is doing really well.
I've heard good things. I've not seen it.
Yeah,
Oddly
I
enough, it's going
haven't
to be
either.
being aired on the CW now. Isn't that interesting?
There you go. Yeah.
Watching on the CW.
A couple of children's shows, Turtle Twins and the Wing Feather Saga. They look good. I don't know too much about them. I saw a promo for an upcoming film at the beginning of Sound of Freedom, an Angel Studios film called The Shift. It's a sci-fi thriller about a guy that gets caught up in, multiple timeline kind of situation. And I guess it's kind of a love story, but, definitely a thriller. It looks really, really good.
I like the actor who's playing the villain in it. I forget his name off the top of my head. We see him in tons of movies, though.
Yeah, he played Ensign Hawk in Star Trek: First Contact.
He's also in. He was in Captain America: The First Avenger. He played one of the. He played.
Oh, that's right. He played Dum Dum Dugan. That's right.
Yeah, he shows up in a lot of things, and I'm glad to see him. Even Jim Caviezel, they think, who's Jim Caviezel? Jim Caviezel was on a very successful TV show for 5 years called Person of Interest.
Yes, he was.
So
Great
he's not
show.
an unknown actor. I have a suspicion they were probably looking for actors to cast that were, names to draw the crowd in, but I think maybe it's about, who can we afford? And I think Jim Caviezel probably took a pay cut to be in this movie. That's probably what happened here.
Yeah.
Helped him out.
Mira Sorvino has been speaking out against human trafficking for about 20 years, right around the time Hollywood stopped giving her leading roles. No, yeah, that's exactly right. And look, I've heard specifically about Jim Caviezel and about some others. There is another well-known YouTuber that kind of runs in the same spheres as we do, that refers to these actors as winding up in the conservative ghetto of acting. You're giving up your career in order to go after what you feel is right. Now, the implication being that that's not smart. You should keep your mouth shut and do what you can. And no. Integrity is what you do, because you have to live with it, not what you do to be praised by other people, and so definitely. I have to respect people like that go, yeah, you know what? I am not doing that. Maria with T and Telly just had a guest on today. They were talking about the anniversary of was it Marilyn Monroe's death?
Yes.
Yeah. And her guest has passed up on many opportunities because she would not. She said, no, I won't do that. It's not worth it to me. That's integrity as far as I'm concerned. And Disney Sheepherder stopped in and said, licking the like. Howdy and hail. Have a great stream. Thanks so much, buddy. It's good to see you. Oh, yeah. Mira Sorvino has had the talent, respect for speaking out. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. That's what I'm talking about, right? I mean, you brought up Weinstein earlier, right? And there's all these people who come out, oh, why terrible, terrible. It's like, screw you.
You knew.
You knew, and only now you are just as you are complicit.
Not only that, but I often felt like the whole Me Too, they got turned on the rest of the country, and I'm like, well, this is really the primary culprits here is a Hollywood culture that, frankly speaking, I thought vanished in like the old Hollywood. I mean, no. You'd heard rumors of the casting couch. I didn't realize that was still a thing going on even up until a few years ago. It could still be going on for all I know.
It absolutely is.
They say they've changed their stripes, but I mean, do we have proof of that? I don't know.
Nope. It absolutely has not. It absolutely is. And here's the insidious part about it. There are people that, even though they're being victimized, they are okay with it because they feel that is the price they have to pay for what they want. You're not just selling your body, you're selling your soul. And that's what a lot of these people have come to realize and said, no, I won't do that. I will not compromise, my integrity. That's why Jim Caviezel is on the particular career path he is on. That's why Mira Sorvino is on the career path she is on. You could, even though it's not the exact same specific topic, you could say Gina Carano is in the same situation. She could have backed down. She could have, not said anything controversial. She said what she said. She meant what she said. And she was not going to apologize for it. She did not care if that meant she was going to be changing careers. Look, if your career, if your money is more important to you than your convictions, you have no convictions. Really quick, want to say hi to Tommy and the Guinea Pig Collective who just stopped in. Good to see you, buddy. Glad you're here. Only when it becomes the cool thing to do, but not until that fact. And yeah, and not only that, they will drop it and go to the next virtue signal. Whatever. They'll completely forget about it. Today it's wear masks, tomorrow it's Ukraine, now it's speak out against trafficking. And
I support the current.
I support the current thing. Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah, and so that's just it, isn't it, Lester? It's about the diversity they feel signals their virtue. It's definitely not about diversity of thought. Because, no, what were you going to say?
Oh, go ahead. No, I complete your sentence.
I was going to say that diversity of thought for them involves anyone who doesn't agree with them is evil. They're bad. If you have a different opinion than they do, then you are the you people. You people. You're the evil ones because you believe differently than I do. And see, in that regard, I can say there was a time when if you were liberal, if you were conservative, if you were whatever, you may have had a different philosophy about how we should be running the country, what we needed to do. But we all agreed on what needed to be done. We all agreed that, people needed to be cared for. We needed to, freedoms and, law and order and blah, 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 and the American way and all that kind of stuff. We just had differing opinions on how to do that. So that opens you up to the ability to maybe talk it through and say, well, maybe there's some compromise as long as we get to the same place, right? No. Now it's diametrically opposed. It's if you don't agree with me, if you're not with me, you are the enemy. You are evil if you don't agree with me, not realizing that, in fact, you might actually be following the evil side. You know, the villains don't believe they're wrong, right? And, you know, did you ever, you know, this question comes up all the time. If you lived in 1930s Germany, would you have spoken up? Would you have done something?
Yeah.
Or would you have sold out your neighbor because they were, you know, of a different religious persuasion than you, different background than you? You knew that they, you know, had different sympathies than you did.
Well,
look, we definitely, and yes, that brings us back
trying to bring that point up, and then she got
because they were literally being forced to look at themselves and realize they were the people that would sell out their neighbors, and they did not want to see that.
But even going by Hollywood's own quote-unquote standards for diversity, this movie has that in spades. You know,
absolutely.
You know, I mean, Latino director, huge cast. I mean, let's face facts. The subject matter of the movie: these kids aren't coming from America. These are unfortunately, you know, residents of a lot of these countries where the left supposedly has all this sympathy for, but then you make a movie describing the plight of the most vulnerable in these countries, and then suddenly, yeah. And
so that brings us back to all the people that are, you know, crapping all over this film, and it's like, you got to ask yourself, what's your problem with this film? Let's, you know, and it's like this article said, let's assume that this is all, you know, juju and conspiracy theories and religious stuff. This, we all still agree, this is a problem that needs to be brought to people's attention. Okay? You also cannot deny that it is based on a true story. And I don't mean based on a true story like, arguably The Godfather's based on a true story, right? You know, if you squint, you might be able to say he's kind of like an amalgamation of these real people and da-da-da-da. And, you know, in a way, you know, hey, you know, Marvel Comics, Wolverine is based on a real guy, actually, you know. I mean, that's actually true, you know. But not like that. This is all pretty accurate. I've kind of already told you all of the stuff that's different or downplayed or, you know, completely made up. Doesn't change the fact that this guy Tim Ballard and his Operation Underground Railroad really is working to rescue kids, you know, instead of just putting away, you know, friends of the playground. He is really rescuing people from, you know, that's another thing. Thought slavery was bad. If slavery's so bad, it's so bad that you're still suffering because your great-great-great-grandparents were slaves. Maybe you'd want to do something about people who are slaves right now.
Right.
You think?
Well, that's what I'm hoping, though, with this movie, that this movie is going to wake up people who may have been, I mean, I don't know about you, did you think the problem was as bad until you watched this movie? I wasn't aware of it. I guess it's one of these things you're aware of, you don't know the extent to it, and I'm like, wow, this really is as bad as they say in this film. And I think, I don't know.
Right you are, Sir Torrin. You're absolutely right. Remember that famous picture of all the people giving the salute and the one guy just standing there? You know what happened to him?
What?
He was killed.
That's terrifying.
He was executed.
It reminds me of one movie I was watching when I think it was about, I don't know if it was during or after the aftermath of what was going on in Germany in that time, and they said, why doesn't anybody stand up and say no to this? There were plenty of people to stand up. No, they're now 6 feet under. That's what the guy said. The person criticizing what was going on in Germany during that time. But, yeah.
Wow. The most incredible thing is while filming, because Jim's wife was worried, Ballard called in ex-military to guard the crew. That same crew rescued a bunch of kids during filming.
Wow.
Did not know that. That is amazing. That is really cool. So how is this movie doing? I think I started out the stream. You know what? I'm gonna try this again. I'm gonna try sharing my screen again. You guys are gonna have to tell me if it's presenting or not, because share screen, entire screen. There's my screen. Share. Are you seeing this? It says
hold on, because it takes a couple seconds for
synopsis and metrics.
Hold on, I got yes.
Okay, good. All right. So you know the synopsis. You know all this. Okay. So 156,440,598 dollars. And that's just domestic, because it has not released yet internationally. It's coming out on the 24th in Australia, in Mexico. Let me tell you something. When it hits Mexico, I think it's going to be huge there. 8/31. That's the end of this month. Spain in October. Looks like the UK in September. And that looks like the only ones we've got lined up so far. That's sad, but we'll see. Maybe some other countries will pick this up. But here's what I found really interesting is, oh, there we go. Are you seeing the domestic box office?
Yeah.
Chart? Yeah.
Okay, good. Because it went away for me for a second. So if you look here, do you see my cursor too? So I can point.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you see this highlighted section here. This was what they were expecting. They thought if they got to 75 million, they thought that would be a really, really good. But where it actually has gotten to is more than twice that. And it's rising. It's actually going up, which I find absolutely amazing. We talk about films having drop off and having legs. Well, this one's got legs for days.
And I think another part of it is, at the end of the film, they have a frank discussion with the audience, asking, don't let somebody who can't afford not to buy a ticket to not be able to see this film.
Don't let money be the reason that someone doesn't see this film.
Go onto our site. Buy them a ticket.
So yeah, that's actually probably a good place for me to mention this. I don't think I've said anything yet during the stream, but ordinarily up at the top of the chat, I have my link to buy me a drink. I'm not drinking tonight, even though I know some of you all have bought me drinks. They're in the queue. I will be thanking you personally in future streams, but tonight is a dry stream, because tonight, instead of buying me a drink, I'm hoping that you will click the link at the top and pay it forward. If you've already seen The Sound of Freedom, maybe you buy a ticket or two for someone else to go see it. I think that's a brilliant business model. Some of the critics of this film have tried to point to this as some sort of a dastardly thing. It's like, oh yeah, it's doing real well because people are buying tickets for other people. So, I mean, I usually pay for my whole family when I go to see something. When I take my buddies to go. Look, when I went to see what was it? Blade Runner. What was it? Blade Runner? What was the sequel called? Blade
2049.
Runner. 2049. Thank you. I paid for my friends. I mean, that doesn't mean that it was.
I think they're trying to compare it to when Disney inflated.
See, that is a very different circumstance. When Disney is giving away tickets, okay,
and double dipping and saying that
they're taking a tax write-off for it, but then they're reporting it as tickets sold. And then you've got all these empty theaters. That's a very, very different thing. By the way, that same link that I have at the top of the chat. It's also a place you can go if you don't have the money to see this movie, but you want to go see it. So that's an option too. It's kind of like when you go to the nickel dime store, and there's that little penny jar there. You can leave a penny if you got an extra penny, or you take a penny if you need it. You know.
It says buy a ticket, leave a ticket.
Yeah, exactly.
Or take a ticket, leave a ticket.
But we'll be interested in the international results, especially in the Latin American, Mexican areas. Yeah, Lester, do you agree with me? I think that once it releases in Mexico, it's going to do gangbusters there too. And if we've got to keep it alive, so that someone in Mexico can see it, I'm fine with that too. I imagine that's how it works. You can go to the Angel Studios website where they talk about it, that they make every good faith effort to get the money to people, to the tickets to get people in to see the movies. And it actually is really easy. You just go to the site and buy a ticket, or you go to the site and say, I need a free ticket. It's really that simple. This movie has worried the shite ass Disney for years. Soon as they bought Fox, they buried the movie. But like I said at the beginning of the show, Tommy, I'm not even sure that's true, because think about it. They buried everything they got from Fox. Not for any reason other than they're just morons the way they're running their business.
Fox was working on, you've heard of the Redwall book series? With like the mice, that they were going to do a movie. Fox was going to do a movie based on that. That got canceled after Disney took it over. That was going to
because all Disney could think about doing was, destroying all the Lucasfilm and Marvels. That's pretty much where their attention was. I doubt China and Thailand will show it. Those clowns traffic their own people by the thousands. Look at that's you're not wrong. And I'm guessing that future films may actually even talk about some of that.
Talk about.
I would not be. Real quick, want to say hi to Pat S. Haven't seen you in a while, Pat. Thanks for stopping by. I've just been sneaking people in through the side door of the theater. I never thought to buy someone a ticket. That's sharp thinking. Okay, well, there you go. Because it still supports the studio. This brings me back to what I was saying before, right? This could have been distributed by Disney, could have been distributed by Fox, but because it's being distributed by the independent studio, we've been talking about this for as long as we've been doing this, right, Boomer? Where we complain about these big companies, these big entertainment companies that are literally destroying our favorite IPs, that are not putting out good product, that just suck, and we keep saying, look, just stop. Stop making Star Trek. Stop making Star Wars. Stop making, DC heroes. Okay?
Do you know what's interesting? I think this thing's like Star Trek and Lord of the Rings, and there are moments in those movies where the characters have to make the hard choice, like Tim Ballard does in this. Like in Lord of the Rings, it's when Frodo decides to pick up the ring and says, "I will take it to Mordor," and you see that look on Gandalf's face, like he didn't want Frodo to do that, but he knew this has to be the way. Remember that?
Yeah.
Or even in Star Trek 3, when Kirk is going to go and steal the Enterprise to get Spock's body back. Remember that? Because even though it came a great person.
Well, you can even look at Star Trek 2. Why Spock's body needed to be gotten, right?
Yeah.
He looks and he goes, "There's only one thing to do," and he just goes and does it. And he doesn't tell anyone. And there's that great scene where Kirk turns and looks at Spock's station, and he's not there. Mm-hmm. And when does he do that? "Captain, you better come down here."
Yeah.
And he looks, and there's no Spock. It's like, wow. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Look, we have a movie doing unfortunately well that wants to undermine men, that wants to exalt women, and I know they talk about the patriarchy a lot. I don't know if they use the phrase toxic masculinity. But let's face it, toxic masculinity led to the blood upon which this civilization is built. And it was blood that was freely given.
Yeah.
I mean, Yeah. You talk about, toxic masculinity, but then who do you call when you need help? You call the police, you call the fire department, you call a soldier,
Right.
someone who, and we've now been told the police are under no obligation to actually help you by the rules they operate under. They could just show up and take your information after something has happened. But it's the true heroes that go, nope, I signed up for a reason, and I got to do what I got to do.
That reminds me of the movie 13 Hours, the movie about the Benghazi disaster. Remember that? I don't know if you've seen that, but that was also, they didn't have to go back. They weren't. I think they were even under orders not to leave it alone, but they went back to the I think the embassy to help those people out. But
Pat S, don't look to me to buy tickets for anything that's going on in New York. I don't live there. I didn't even know that there was any tickets happening in New York. I think you'd be better off looking to soundtracks with Birdman if you're trying to get into a concert or a musical venue or something like that. But
you a Billy Joel fan, Troy?
I like Billy Joel. I have Greatest Hits album. I have Innocent Man. My grandmother was a big fan of what's the song, My Life? My grandmother liked that song. Which I believe they used as the theme song from the TV show Bosom Buddies. Am I right?
Bosom Buddies, I believe so. Yeah.
Tom Hanks. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If the populace is willing to listen to the voices of the children in those regions, I'm sure. Yeah. And the mothers of those children, right? And the fathers of those children.
It's interesting that I don't know how much of this movie is in Spanish. Part of me wants to know, wonders if this might be kind of like a bilingual movie, like equal parts Spanish and English. So they could probably just subtitle the English parts in those countries, right? And in Spanish, and then just have
they
the
do speak some Spanish in there, but they give you subtitles for a majority of the Spanish bits.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking they could reverse it for if they're showing it in Spanish-speaking countries, right? They could probably subtitle the English portions in Spanish. Yeah.
Do you honestly want to see that TMNT film? Really?
Oh, no.
We'll probably end up talking about that at some point.
I've been avoiding it. It's kind of like how I tried avoiding another movie, but unfortunately we had to talk about it after.
Exactly. Evelyn Hampton, good evening. Yep, I've got my coin right here. Thank you so much, Evelyn. Super appreciate that. 13 Hours, good movie. Has twice interviewed people who were on the ground that day. Interesting.
Yeah, it was a Michael Bay directed film too, it was a lot better than some of his other more recent offerings. It was actually really good.
Oh, and of course we're not going to have any video sales yet, but when it does come out, I've been hearing rumors that it's going to be a 2-disc set with a lot of like behind the scenes and
Nice.
Documentary type stuff.
Frankly, the making of this movie is probably a story into itself, so I'm very curious about that. Some movies do lend where you can learn it, where the making of the movie is also a story.
Yeah. So this is my thought. We keep it in theaters as long as we can. And kind of look. We've been saying for the longest time we're sick of what's coming out of Hollywood. You got to stop making these genre films and start making the independent films. Because remember, Star Wars was an indie film. No one had ever heard of Luke Skywalker before this movie. Who were the big stars? Alec Guinness and Peter Cushing. Those were the only ones that anybody knew the name of, and they weren't the main stars.
Many of
Indie
the
film
big,
like Indiana Jones.
Well, Indy's another great one, though. Indiana Jones did not exist as a character before they decided to make that film, right?
yeah. If you go back to the '70s, though, Coppola, George Lucas, Martin Scorsese, they all started out with much smaller productions before they eventually, started making the bigger movies for Hollywood. I think Mean Streets, was that Scorsese's first film? I'm not even sure. I think he
It's the first one I can think of.
Earlier, and these were smaller budgeted, almost indie movies.
Yep.
Like that. George Lucas made THX. Remember the original THX movie?
Yep.
With Robert Duvall.
Yep.
With
yeah, I know, right?
Dystopian future. Remember that? That movie.
Well, I mean, come on, Sean Connery did Zardoz, so I mean, let's not cast aspersions.
But he had a nice body for it.
Well, he did. That's true.
I was saying the future portrayed in that movie was horrible. I'm not saying it was a horrible movie.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. I see. But I guess you could say the same thing about Zardoz too. Now that I think about it, but
I've not seen Zardoz. I've avoided it.
You may have to one day.
You haven't got to the beach yet in your library, have you?
I'm guessing that we'll end up seeing it on Big Al Presents before we would get to it. But yeah, it's we kind of need to put our money where our mouth is, right? And say, we will go see independent films that are inspiring to us, that are worthwhile. It's not. How does Trey from Maxworld Entertainment say? Instead of bashing the things you hate, support the things you love.
In a world where you could be anything, be kind.
Well, that's exactly true. But you send a much louder message by spending your dollar. Well, what's that line from the Untouchables? You get a lot farther with a kind word and a gun than you do with just a kind word. So maybe do both. Same thing here. Withhold your money from the franchises that are being ruined, right? And the propaganda that you don't want to support. And go see the things that you do want to see, that do deserve to be supported. And I would go so far as to say, and maybe even buy an extra ticket or two for other people, to go see this film. As kind of a side note, another film that I have seen is coming out from this Angel Studios is a movie about Mother Cabrini.
Yeah.
Who is the patron saint of immigrants. And look, if you grew up Italian, you know Mother Cabrini, right? My grandmother had a statue, a bust of Mother Cabrini in her house, and I remember it all the time I was growing up. Little shrine to her. My mother still has that statue. In fact, I saw it just a couple weeks ago when I was out there. I was like, I remember that statue.
And she struggled with a lot of institutions when she was over here, right? I mean,
oh yes, she did, and
also
they don't pull any punches on that either. And there's a family story about my mom and my uncle, who again I just visited just a couple weeks ago. They when they were little kids, like I think it was like 9 or 10 years old, right? My mom got really, really sick. She had a really, really bad fever. And my grandmother was really, really concerned, thought she wasn't going to make it. And my Uncle Richard picked up on that. And he went to this little shrine with the bust. And he said, "Oh, Mother of Greenie, don't let my sister die." Which is, of course, a sweet and funny little story, but, with kids,
they'll say the name.
She doesn't know Mother Cabrini, but yeah, so yeah. You don't grow up Catholic Italian and not, know that story, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. And I'm telling you, it looks like they're going to do the same thing with that. If you like the movie and you want to buy tickets, put some money in for someone else, go ahead and do that. And I'm going to tell you something. Not only am I going to buy tickets for someone else to go see Cabrini, but I'm going to tell my mom, go see this movie. And if you want, this is how you get a free ticket. Netter and I have already paid for it, so you can feel good about going and claiming a ticket if you feel you have to.
Go see it for Grandma.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good.
They told me to stop showing up at the theater armed, no matter how much I smiled and complimented the building. Bunch of Yes, as if you ask me. Okay, there you go.
What I find interesting, though, what I'm hoping also the Mother Cabrini shows, it also shows a lot of the plight, I guess, of Italian immigrants in the United States, which I think those stories tend to get ignored now, like how a lot of different immigrant groups come to the United States, what they had to endure in those early days, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think that's been kind of, I don't know. It's like I guess people stop talking about it after a while, and maybe it's good that maybe some light shown on that. I don't know.
But I feel like this is an independent company kind of coming into its own. There's no way it would be doing what it's doing if this was being distributed by if it was being distributed by even 20th Century Fox, right? This money would be going to 20th Century Fox, and you just have this little independent, film company putting out its films, and it, does what it does and whatever. This is a very different thing, and this is how independent companies grow, right?
Yeah.
And this honestly could very well be the future of entertainment. And I'm not just talking about Angel Studios with its so-called conservative religious films. I'm talking about other studios like them just making whatever, sci-fi films or whatever, the filmmakers want to do. I think a lot of people, and we'll talk with, I'm planning to have a guest in the coming weeks to talk about the SAG-AFTRA strike. But I think there's a lot of people in that industry that are thinking about, do I want to keep working in the studio system anymore?
Yeah.
Maybe just go start making my own independent films and just be done with all of this.
You used to have more independence. I remember back in the 90s, even into the 2000s, it was all about being an independent filmmaker. And then suddenly it all became about these franchise pictures and $100 million budgets and everything else. I don't remember the movie Napoleon Dynamite. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Oh, I don't know that I watched it all the way through, but I've definitely seen big chunks.
It was a comedy. That was a big hit, but that was an indie movie. It started
Yes,
out
it was.
an independently made movie, and then it got bigger distribution.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why it wouldn't be Netter's kind of thing. That's true, but
it's a ridiculous movie.
It is ridiculous.
There's some truth to it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't pull any punches with who it makes fun of in the movie. It goes after
No. You are absolutely right about that. But yeah, so yeah, I feel like this is really important, and anybody who's trying to poo-poo this film, you got to ask yourself, what is their motivation? Why? I saw, and I've been working at this very hard. I'm getting better at it, not jumping on the keyboard and responding to randos on the internet. But I saw someone saying, it only made $100 million. That's nothing. Yeah, it's nothing compared to the billion that a Marvel film could make. But when you look at how much money this movie made over what it cost to make it, and how much that $1 billion film lost because they spent so much more,
Yeah. And I want to make a point. This movie does not look cheap in any manner.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. Yes.
The what do you call it? The location shots. Some of those vistas. I mean, when you see the jungle and the mountains and it's like, oh my gosh! I don't know if it was actually filmed in Honduras or if it was filmed somewhere else, but it was. I mean, for as bad as the situation was, for these kids and the story that it's telling in this very dark places in the cities and whatnot, some of the places that it showed were just beautiful,
It makes me wonder that if a movie with this modest budget can look this good, what is Hollywood spending the money on in these lavish 100 million plus movies? Is that money? Where is that money going? That's what I'm starting to wonder.
Yeah.
We're complaining about how bad the CG looks now, and I'm like, well, where is the money going?
That's exactly it. Lester brings up a point. Not just what he said. Most sane actors are cool cats, just like sane MMA guys are cool cats. I will go even further. It's very easy to fall into the trap of believing that, just all these actors are left-wing wackadoos, right? And then you come to realize, oh, no, wait a minute. There's, Jim Caviezel, there's Mel Gibson, there's, Clint Eastwood, et cetera. And then you get a little further into it. Like I said, there's an actor that I met when we went to a Twin Peaks festival. And he's like, oh, okay, you're conservative too, huh? And I'm like, yes, I am. You are? And he's like, yeah, I can never ever talk about it, but I'm in the closet, and we had lunch with him. I'm like, man,
I like how
that's
Troy's
amazing.
whispering as he's talking about it, like somebody is going to overhear.
Well, yeah, that's because that's how we were talking, right? It's just but.
Well, maybe he also has career paths open. Maybe if Angel Studios and other independent studios like this start becoming.
So David brings up a great point. A pretty penny goes to craft services. We talked about that on Geeky Geezers. That what's her name played Starbuck. Katie Sackhoff was saying, and she may have been hyperbolic. She may not have been literal, but she said that the craft services bill for what was for Mandalorian, or was it Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett or whatever it was, she said she thought that the craft services bill was more than they spent on a whole season of Battlestar Galactica. Again, she was probably being hyperbolic, but she was pointing out how extravagant these craft services are. And it's like, you know what? Maybe it's time you back off that crap, Maybe, a few ham and cheese sandwiches, peanut butter and jelly, some, potato chips, water and soda, and you just keep going. I'll tell you, and I think about, all the times I've, in the business world, they bought you lunch or they provided lunch because you were working overtime and whatnot. And that's the kind of thing we're talking about. We're talking sub sandwiches and, drinks. We're talking, whatever. And, it's like, you know what? You have a special dietary restriction? Well, here's a voucher for you to order from your favorite place. Go do that.
You know what? I'm reminded of The Great Outdoors with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd. He's like, you know what he wanted us to have for dinner? Franks and beans. I got lobster tails. And of course, he's the guy that has no money, right? That's spending all the money on what? I think it's about. Go ahead.
No. I just was highlighting Fletcher Williams. I smashed the like. Did you? Yeah. Thanks, buddy. I super appreciate that. Every time PA makes a Starbucks run for the clients.
Cheap. That is not cheap.
Commercial shoot. No, it is not. And I've come to realize that it's actually cheaper and every bit as good to even get from one of these services. You see Blackout Coffee or something like that. Yeah. That's Blackout, not Black Rifle. Not a paid endorsement, but who knows? Maybe one day. We got some hot chocolate from them, and it was like, man, this is every bit as good as what you'd get from Starbucks and way cheaper. So, I don't know, man. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Independent companies are going to take over the entertainment industry if this kind of trend keeps going. And that's another reason I think that the entertainment industry and many people in media are attacking this, because they see their livelihood being taken, and it's like, oh, well, maybe start spending less on your films. Maybe start doing good work. Maybe stop, doing, genre films and pissing off the existing fans and start making new stuff. You make up a new character and it's, whatever gender, race, creed, whatever. Nobody cares. But when you take an established one and swap it, you piss off everybody. You piss off the people that were fans of it. You you make the people that are supposedly being represented feel like tokens. You know, I'm not good enough for you to give me my own character. You got to steal one. That makes me feel real good, you know?
Oh, Disney wasted so many Marvel properties since they took it over. I don't think they understood how popular Moon Knight was, and they ruined that with that show. At least I haven't seen it, but I mean, that's what I heard.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If they had thought about it in terms of like, what would you do with a Batman series, right? You could have done that with Moon Knight, but no, they didn't.
I don't know. I think Marvel Studios was better off before Disney completely took them over. I think that's where a lot of the ideas came from. But
but they were going bankrupt, and they were going bankrupt because of the comic book side of it.
Well,
see. Okay, Evelyn, have a great night. Thank you for hanging out as long as you did. Hope to catch you on the next one. Hope to catch you on the watch party tomorrow, maybe.
Do you know what I like, though, about Angel Studios? I like the fact they have a YouTube channel you can go to.
Who does?
Angel Studios.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they actually will do live interviews with the filmmakers, and you can even comment in the chat, which I thought was rather impressive.
I was in the... Thanks to you sending me the link, I was able to catch the live stream about Cabrini yesterday.
Yeah. That had the director of Sound of Freedom review, too. And it was interesting because you're basically... It's like they're with the regular... They're with us... They're with us. They're talking. I mean, they're basically doing this for us regular folk on the YouTube.
Yeah.
So they don't see themselves as above us or anything. It didn't.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's, we've talked too about celebrities that are really down to earth, right? And there's celebrities that think who the heck they are, you know, and that tells you everything you need to know, right? Because the ones that you like the most are the ones that have this attitude. They may not say it this way, but you know they have this attitude that I appreciate you because you are what make me successful. You know, so you basically pay, you're paying my bills. You know, they know that, and so they treat you that way. But then there's the ones that think, you know, I don't want to be around the unwashed masses. I'm way above them. I live in, a mansion with walls around it. It's like, yeah, who paid for that mansion?
If you ever work on a movie, you'll find out which actors click with the crew and which ones are more separated.
Yeah, we were just talking a previous stream about like Tom Cruise and stuff, and some
Charles Nelson Riley. I brought up because you brought him up, and I said that I knew someone who said he was really good with the crew on a movie they worked on.
There you go. Exactly.
Bruce Campbell also, I've heard good things about him.
Oh yeah, I have a buddy who met him at some film debut or something. I think it was one of the Evil Dead films or something like that.
Yes.
And it was here in the Chicago area. And he said, "Oh man, he was just great. He was eager to shake people's hands. He was as eager to shake people's hands as they were to get at him and shake his hand." I'm like, that's really cool to hear. Real quick, want to say hi to Tim Hayes. I hope you haven't been here, too long, and I'd missed you, but welcome. But yeah, so in a way, it's a little bit of a white pill for me, right? Because we see the potential for something like this. We've been complaining for so long, and now we're seeing, the exactly what we want. We're seeing the independent films, right? So when I talk about this film, or like a while back when we had Tom Conkle on, we were talking about Trouble Is My Business and so forth. There's a great example. Trouble Is My Business. That film was done on what would be considered a shoestring budget. I mean, it sounds like a lot to me, but as far as movies like that go, it was not a lot. And I had no idea how many of those location shots were green screen, you know, and you know, the New York skyline being like, you know, computer graphics and stuff like that. And I honestly did not even know, you know, no uncanny valley there, you know, just absolutely amazing. But he did only what he needed to do, right? He, you know, because he didn't have the money. And look back at some of your favorite films that were made on lower budgets, and you don't even realize, like the first Terminator film. There were shots that were done there on the super cheap. You know, I mean, I even heard a story that one of the that scene where Schwarzenegger punches the window of the car, you know, that was a pickup scene. It was after they'd wrapped. They didn't have what's it called for the city to allow you to film on the street. License, but permit. Didn't have a permit. Yeah, he didn't have a permit, nothing like that. So it was just, who was it, Cameron and Schwarzenegger. Cameron he did the camera himself, you know, and they got the shot, and then they got out of there because it's like you're busting into a car on a city street, and there's no reason to believe, you know, there's a film permit. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, David.
It's called guerrilla shooting when you do it.
Guerrilla shooting, yeah. You know, and you look at, you know, that opening shot from Terminator, and you see the endoskeletons walking around, stepping on the skulls and stuff, and then you realize that, you know, it's forced perspective. It's all in camera, and the stuff in the background is smaller, and you got this bigger, you know, like puppet, you know, statue closer, you know, moving and turning its head to the camera. It's just amazing what they do. And they did it, you know, on the super, super cheap. And it looks so much better than the real expensive CG stuff that they're wasting money on. So anyway, I've gone off on this huge tangent just to get at the point that, you know, don't crap all over $150 million. Like I said, this is twice the highest number they were hoping to get for this film, and it hasn't stopped yet. You know, whereas there's other films that Disney's done that have hit the theater and are gone already. They're not making any more money on it. They're not making any more money on it. I don't care what they do. They put it on their streaming service. They don't make more money off of that. They're not going to release it on DVD, apparently. So they make no more money. They're done.
I'm really thinking streaming has been very detrimental to movies. I think we're going to be learning more of this as time goes.
Iger's even said it, but he's not doing anything about it.
They don't know how to back off now because I guess they sold the investors. Has Disney Plus made any money for Disney? I must have, right? I mean, I don't know.
It's hard to say because they've lost so much money in so many other places. They haven't had a movie this year that made money.
They used to be able to license out their movies to other streaming services, like Netflix would pay them big bucks.
This is what we've been saying. They're leaving money on the table. There's no licensing deals. Look, if you get into streaming, and we said this at the beginning, right? We said if any studio is going to win in this streaming thing, it's going to be Disney, right? Because they have all their back catalog. They acquired all the Lucasfilm stuff, all the 20th Century Fox stuff, all the Marvel stuff, right? All of ABC, everything ABC owned, right? All of that stuff they could throw onto their streaming service and provide that as content and make you want to subscribe. But then that's not what they did. They went with their Disney Vault idea, which never paid off for them in the past.
I think they finally got rid of that after a while.
They did.
Now it's back, I guess. You know,
in a different way it is. They keep making the same mistakes over and over again. I said this about the current strike. This is the same strike that was fought last time and the time before and the time before that. Whether it was syndication or home media or cable or whatever, they keep having to have the same fight over and over again. Now it's about streaming, you know?
I wonder where these Angel Studios movies are going to wind up on streaming.
Not only are they looking to acquire Hulu, they already made an agreement, so they don't have a choice anymore. They have to acquire Hulu. Now, interestingly, I saw a rumor somewhere that they're looking to acquire Hulu and then squash it. They literally want to acquire whatever products Hulu has, and they're going to end Hulu and put it all on Disney Plus.
But then they're getting rid of ABC.
Yep. Yeah, it makes zero sense. It makes absolutely zero sense. Now look, the idea of a big company buying a smaller one, a competitor, to squash them, that makes sense, right? That's Rockefeller type stuff. That's, that can put you in antitrust territory, but, it makes sense. It makes zero sense when you are now at the bottom of the barrel and you can't even afford to buy the thing to trash it. The only reason at this point Disney should be acquiring something is because they plan to make money off of it, not to destroy it, But they can't. They don't know how to make money anymore. They acquired some of the most lucrative franchises there are. No, we're way past tax write-off at this point. We are way past tax write-off at this point. They've already taken all the tax write-offs they can with Willow and all the other stuff. There's even talk, did you hear this one today, Boomer?
What?
That Off-White and the Seven Hippies might get trashed.
What do you mean?
Or at least Iger is looking to scrap that whole project.
Yeah, that has not had some good PR lately.
It is.
Especially from
Everything that comes out about it makes it worse and worse and worse. And yeah, that could be your tax write-off. We know it's not going to succeed, so we're going to. That is the closest they'll get to a bailout too. Everyone keeps talking about bailout. No, the best they could do is take tax write-offs. That's the only way they're going to get bailed out.
I get really annoyed because I think she was making a comment about, the original was made in the 1930s, and I'm thinking, how back, and I guess the illusion is how backwards thinking people were back then, and I'm thinking the 1930s was the Great Depression in the United States.
Yup.
Even as bad as things are now, that was a horrible time to be.
If I didn't make it clear, I really should. I'm sorry, Deleted Scenes. You're absolutely right. That is just a rumor. But it's one of those kinds of rumors that, kind of falls under Poe's law. At this point, you could totally believe it. You know what I mean?
But, I don't throw shade at people who lived in the 1930s. They survived a nightmare. Okay, so.
Yeah.
Batgirl. Part of me wonders, though, especially, I wonder. Don't even get me started. I'll be ranting about DC come Sunday.
It sounds very much like they were going to use Michael Keaton to do a Batman Beyond concept using Batgirl, which would have destroyed both Batgirl and Batman Beyond. And it's also keeping alive this Snyderverse that they need to get away from. They really, really do. That's why when I heard this thing about Gal Gadot, I'm like, you guys just don't learn. Nothing against Gal Gadot. She was a wonderful Wonder Woman. But if you're going to try and keep any of that continuity, and all you're going to do is piss off all the Henry Cavill fans, I don't know. Stop it. Just stop making these damn films. Just put them in the vault, walk away from them for a decade, start making new stuff, you start making animated features again. Go back to the public domain fairy tales, because there's still plenty out there. And if you want to make them, culturally diverse, Quit looking to Europe for your fairy tales. Start looking to African nations. Start looking to Middle Eastern nations, right? It's that simple. Just do what Disney did to become what Disney was.
Oh, Disney.
It's too much work, though. We'd rather just take a movie we've already done, race swap it, maybe gender swap it, and tell the same story all over again.
See,
how's that working out for you now?
They did Princess and the Frog, but at least there it made sense because they were switching up the setting to I think it was 1920s New Orleans, yeah. So
yeah, and I'm not sure that the Princess and the Frog is really that
right. Steep.
You know what I mean?
Whatever.
Yeah, it's not. You know, it's for many it's a barely known one.
Yes.
But my problem with it is the princess part of it.
Oh, they explained it.
I know they did, but that is...
She was going to marry a prince. She wasn't a princess herself. She would become a princess if she married the prince that was visiting New Orleans at the time. You understand? That's how that worked.
I do, which is which kind of flies in the face of their, women don't need no man story.
They weren't like that back then. This was before they had the turn happened over there.
That's true. That is true. No, you're right about that.
The
that
turn
is true.
happened. I think it was probably when they acquired Lucasfilm Marvel. Something happened to Disney as a whole. I think it wasn't.
It wasn't just Disney.
Maybe it was all the funding. Maybe it was this ESG funding.
It is. That was the foot in the door, and the hiring practices that bring in the socialists and the hippies, and that's how you get to where we are now in all of corporate America. Really, all of these companies need to learn the lesson the hard way. They've got to be What is that phrase that Andre from Midnight's Edge, Heinerscheiden or whatever, the one that hired Dylan Mulvaney? That's what it really takes.
Yes.
Picture it. In the Pacelli Kraken and the Boomer Kong take on the evil threatening the known world. Coming soon to theaters. Oh, that would be great. That would be absolutely great. I'd be all about that.
I do want to see some movies coming out. Like I said, we mentioned that horror movie coming out, Late Night with the Devil, which I'm keeping my fingers crossed on. That'll be good.
I'll tell you what, they've already started with the poster and everything. They got my attention,
And other things, and I'm saying, Angels, and hopefully we'll get other indie directors coming onto the scene, and maybe they can come in and help reform the bigger studios at some point, or maybe they can just take the place of the bigger studios, because maybe that's what has to happen.
I'm telling you, there is nobody who really understands finance that would use the phrase "too big to fail." They'll say it, but they don't believe it because they know it's a fallacy. And there is no company that is too big to fail. And I think the whole of the mainstream entertainment industry is very much on the precipice of dying. Now, that doesn't mean the entertainment industry is on the precipice of dying. Because, as I said, we've got, independent companies like Angel Studios that will continue to be successful as long as they continue to make the stuff that people want to see. We got YouTube. You could be watching any TV show right now, but you decide to come here and watch me bellyache about, the Hollywood, corruption. And, I'd like to think in a positive way, trying to bring some light to a very dark topic. This is what's taking the place. There will always be someone or something to fill in the gap, right? You pull out a weed, something's going to grow there. Whether it's something you plant or another weed. You decide, But, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to start winding it down unless there was something else you wanted to say on this topic.
Nothing.
Have I missed anything on this? Again, I am going to say, look, if you haven't seen Sound of Freedom, I encourage you to go see it. I really would. Especially if you have seen it, but if you just don't want to see it, but you want to help out the cause, again, the link is right up here. Pay it forward. Help somebody else that would otherwise like to see it and can't go see this film. Otherwise, just do a Google search. Look up Operation Underground Railroad. I did a stream with a gamer last year who was raising money for them, and this was before all of this. This was, that was the other thing. Everyone was, thought this was a great charity until, oh no, they're conservative and they're Christian, and oh no, that's bad. Okay, whatever, but, yeah.
Well, as Owen Gleiberman said, and he's an old school, reviewer. He wrote for Entertainment Weekly for years. He's taking his own biases out of it. I'm just judging the work based on itself, and it's good. He says it's a good movie. Go see it. That's what he was saying. He's not being biased against it, even if he, well, I don't even know what you know what I'm saying.
I do. I absolutely do. So speaking of alternate entertainment. Let's talk about what we're doing. So tomorrow night, I'm going to suggest that you come watch a movie with us over on Netter's Network. Link to the stream, I just dropped it. We're going to be watching a film from 2000. I don't remember. Hilary Duff, A Cinderella Story. I remember it being kind of an okay film. But again, as we do when we do these watch parties, I will be hosting the film on Cosme. I'll have an off-platform link so that you can watch along with us. You open it up in one browser or one tab, and you keep us open in the other, so you can hear us chit-chatting and whatnot. And we watch the movie together. So that's over on Netter's Network tomorrow night. I'm going to ask Deleted Scenes if I know he dropped the link before, but can you drop again the link to Sunday evening at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. His Unscripted, I've lost track of the number of it, but I know that the title of it is Throw a Lump of Coal to your watcher. There it is. Episode 25, Toss a Lump of Coal to your watcher. To your Witcher, yeah. So we know what that's about. No big surprise there. But he is the JPRPH. Thanks so much for hanging out with us as long as you could. Take care. Have a great night. But we'll commiserate a little bit about The Witcher if you're a Witcher fan, and that makes a great lead into Geeky Geezers, which will be on this guy's channel, link down below as always, where you want to give us some insights to what we'll be talking about on Sunday.
Lots of things. Well, you mentioned The Witcher. I'll be bringing up a comment by the casting director for that and many other Netflix series. We'll be talking about some more strike stuff. Why do I always blank when we get to this part?
Some gaming news? Don't we have some gaming news?
Yes. Oh, there's some big gaming rumor news, yes.
Yep,
about a potential new console coming out next year. And
I don't think
and also the big one, of course, is the speculation of a Wonder Woman 3.
Yeah. I kind of touched on that a little bit just a little while ago. And of course, I don't think this is a spoiler. I think you guys all know that when there's a big celebrity death, we do an in memoriam. So we will be sending one up to Paul Rubens,
Paul
Pee Wee
Rubens.
Herman.
I guess
It's a shame.
Pee Wee Herman should be the good old days, and Paul Rubens will be the.
I'm good with that.
Will be the in memoriam. Yeah,
I'm good with that. That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
That's a shame. What's even worse is to find out, he'd been struggling with cancer for like 5-6 years. It's like, and he didn't tell anyone. It's like, I mean, look, he's under no obligation to do so. Keep your private life private. That's I good on him, but it does come out of nowhere. Then, it is a shame. Then back over to deleted scenes for The Other Side of Midnight. The special guest Das Wolfen. That would be 12:05 a.m. Eastern or 11:05 Central Time. Other Side of Midnight. It's The Other Side of Midnight. See, great wind down to the weekend and get ready for the rest of the week. Which brings us into, do you know of anything that's going on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Not right now, no.
With soundtracks with Birdman, with Birdman being down.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but he just can't. He can't. So keep giving him the good wishes, good thoughts. He's got to get an ear infection cleared up so he can go in for a surgery on his back.
Yes.
Or is it neck? Either way, it's his spine.
I'm not sure,
so.
but yeah, it's a sensitive surgery, so of course he has to be in the best he can be. And keep him in your thoughts and prayers, please. Yeah.
So that brings us to Thursday. Netter, who's your guest on Thursday Things?
Big Al presents.
Big Al of Big Al Presents. This one's kind of long overdue, so we'll have a little sit down with that big cuddly teddy bear, Big Al, over on Netter's Network. Find out how he got into all of this, and hope you're following his content. He's got some great movie reviews, especially those. I really love those little 10 word or less reviews. You can listen to some of these YouTube channels for 15, 20 minutes, a half hour, a stream like this for 2 hours. He's, less than 5 minutes. He says, or not even, less than 2 minutes. He gives you a 10-word review and he's out, And I'll tell you something else. There's a lot of movies he's seen and done reviews of that I'd never even heard of until I saw a video from him. So, we joke about Ouija Shark, but it's an experience that I remember, so it happened. But there's been some other good movies that I've seen because of his recommendations. So that's Thursday. That brings us around to next Friday. I don't want to say what my topic for next week is going to be just yet because I want to see if I've got my guest lined up, but now that I think about it, I think I already gave it away earlier in the stream, so whatever. But I will confirm that once I can see if my guest is lined up. Otherwise, we'll just play it by ear. We'll figure it out. So that's all I got for tonight. Age of Boomer first. Any last words?
Nothing. Just go see Sound of Freedom if you haven't already, or at least it will surprise you. That's what I'll say. All right.
There you go.
And I am, like I said, I'm looking forward also when it gets released on DVD. I do want to find out more about the making of this movie. So, most important movie of the year, I'll say that.
I agree with you. Possibly in many years.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you. And
Golden Globes, look at this movie, please.
I guarantee you that they're going to overlook it just the same way that the Passion of the Christ was overlooked, and so many other really good films.
Golden Globes is already on the outs, so they could be the ones to maybe pay attention.
I mean the award outfit that goes against the grain and takes a stand could actually save themselves. That's an excellent point.
That's why I'm thinking. At least give it an honest approach.
Absolutely. And that brings us to Netter. Netter, last words?
Yeah, but I gotta come over here so people can hear me. I don't sound like I'm in a tunnel.
Yes, absolutely.
So hopefully everyone can hear me. And y'all know what I always say. We could talk amongst ourselves, and that's all well, good, and fun. But it is so much more fun when you guys are joining us in the chat and you're dropping your comments and questions and trivia and just being goofy or whatever it may be. And it doesn't feel like we're separated by miles or continents in some cases. It feels like we're hanging out in the same room, enjoying each other's company and just having a great time. And you're not just our friends. You are our family. And I just really do mean that. I realize I say this at the end of every show, but I really do mean that. You are our family. And it's so encouraging that you guys are here with us now. I mean, you can be anywhere, and you are here. And that means so much to us.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here, and we will definitely see you next time.
Absolutely. I want to thank everybody for sticking with me as long as you have. By all means, if you are able and inclined, please hit that link, buy a ticket for someone else. Support this. And I'm going to say, hey, support me too. Hit that like button. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. If you enjoyed the stream, tell other people about it. I was at 650 subscribers. I've fallen back over the past week or two to 646. So I'm feeling a bit discouraged. So I'd really appreciate it if there's anything you could do to get the word out about my channel. But again, hitting that like button and sharing it out at least, helps out with suggesting it to other people. So anyway, I thank you so much. Hope you all have a great one. And I don't usually say this, but I think for tonight I will. I will say thank you and God bless. Take care, everyone.
Good night, ladies.
Good night, sir.
Hit it, sweetheart.